Welcome to the Geek and I podcast. My name is John. Glad you can join us this week. Good afternoon, Jeffrey. How are you, sir?
Hey guys, how's it going, man?
So this week we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce?
Oh yes, man. Check this out. This dude's really killer. When people hear his name, people think about kung fu fighting, not the song, the actual kung fu fighting. Let's welcome to the show our new guest, Harry Mok.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good. Hi, everybody. How are you today?
Thanks for being with us today.
Appreciate your time, sir.
My pleasure.
So let's kick things off with a quick little rundown of the resume. And I like to troll IMDb, and one of the first things that pops up on IMDb is from one of my favorite movies, possibly of all time, and I think you know where I'm going. From Rambo: First Blood Part 2.
There you have it.
Now, how did you get involved with that? Were you just a stuntman in the industry at the time? Because I know it also says you're a writer, producer, director, actor, and stuntman. So was that specifically part of your stuntman years?
Yeah, interesting story how that all came about, and it basically throughout the years, I ended up becoming an award-winning director, award-winning producer, award-winning writer, and award-winning actor. And so what has happened is regarding Rambo 2, I was, the year prior, I'd worked on Uncommon Valor with Gene Hackman. And that's the year that I had met Eric Lee, the king of kata. And I've known Eric, I've seen him on all the magazines and everything. And for some reason, we hit it off. We just hit it off. And, and that following year, 84, he had asked me, he said, hey, you want to go to Mexico City with me? I have a seminar I need to do there. And I said, well, God, I've never been to Mexico before. Yeah, let's go. So we flew out to Mexico City, landed, got a hotel room, and then he realized that he came a week early. So we're like, well, Eric, hey, we just hang out. And he goes, well, hey, wait a minute. Rambo 2 is being filmed in Acapulco right now. Let's fly over there and hustle a job. I said, yeah, let's do that. Probably a lot of the same stunt guys from Uncommon Valor the year prior. So sure enough, we got out there and got out to the set, and it was quite a journey, by the way. And we met the stunt coordinator, and the stunt coordinator had told us, he goes, yeah, you guys I could use you guys, to play the Viet Cong soldiers, right? And being stunt guys. He goes, yeah, I could definitely use you guys. But what happened was several days ago, there was a storm that came through and blew down the sets and everything, and they're rebuilding them right now. So if you could just hang around, and wait until they get things back up, yeah, I'll put you right on. And so Eric says, well, why don't you stay here? I'll go back to Mexico City, do my seminar, and I'll come back. I said, sure. So they set us up at the Acapulco Plaza Hotel, which was back then a five-star hotel. And I was only paying $23 a night. I was like, yeah, that'll work. So I just hung out, and meeting people, met the producers and the director, George Cosmatos. And then I remember one day I just happened to have some of my photos with me, and I heard that they were editing at the hotel. So I went upstairs and I found the editor, and the editor was Richard Halsey, who won the Academy Award for editing Rocky 1. So I was like, hey, how are you? And he goes, hey, what are you doing? Working on the show? And I said, oh, no, I'm trying to get on the show. And I showed him my photos and everything. And he was like so blown away that he said, hey, he goes, why don't you show these to Sly? He'll hire you right on the spot. I know he will. And I said, well, I mean, how do you get to him? Because he had 3-4 bodyguards around him all the time, and and plus, I was just waiting around, waiting for them to build things back up again, and he says, well, hey, listen, I got to go down and see him. Why don't you come catch a ride with me in a cab, and we'll go down and I'll introduce you to Sly. And I said, sure, why not? And so we went down to the set because they were filming interiors. Okay, so we went down to the set where they're filming interiors, and he says, "Wait right here, and I'll call for you." So I'm hanging out, and then I'm at the where they're filming interiors, and then out comes the door, George Cosmatos, and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "How are you?" And I said, "Oh, good, good." And I start showing him some of my photos, and he goes, "Wow, these are great." And then the stunt coordinator came up, and George says to the stunt coordinator, he says, "Hey," he goes, "look at this, man. These are pretty, really nice." He goes, "Could you use anything like this in this film?" And he says, "Well, I mean, the film moves really fast." He goes, I don't know if we could set up some of these things, but I definitely want to use you, and I'm not sure when they're going to be done with building the sets and all finished putting the sets back up." And he goes, I don't want you to just hang around here for nothing. I mean, why don't you leave your information back at the production office and head back home, and when we're ready, I'll fly you back out. And at that point, all I could say is, "Oh, okay, all right, sure." And I'm thinking to myself, well, gosh, that ain't going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen. So an hour had gone by, and I thought, well, shoot, maybe I should I hadn't seen Richard, and I thought, well, maybe I should head back and just do that, leave my information there. So as I started to head out to catch a cab, I hear someone call my name, and I turn around and I see it's Richard, and he says, "Come here, come here." So I go over there, and he knocks on the motor. Sly was in a big motorhome. He knocks on the door. Sly opens up the door, and Richard says, "This is the guy I was telling you about." And Sly looks at me and he says, "Yeah, come on in." So I go into his motorhome, and I kid you not, I wasn't in there for no more than a few minutes, and he was looking at my photos, and he says, "I want to use you. I want you to double some kicks for me." And I was like, "Sure, no problem." And so we're hanging out, talking about everything and anything, and mutual friends and stuff. And he really, it was so cool because here I am in my 20s, sitting right across from Stallone, like, 2-3 feet across from Stallone, just him and I sitting in this motorhome chatting away. And I was like, wow, how cool is this? And then he goes to tell me about, certain people that we knew and everything. And he goes on and he goes, I'm working on Rocky One, and I'm in the ring, and we're doing our fighting and everything. And the coordinator is telling me, "No, you can't do that. That's not how it's done." And Sly says, "Bullshit. This is how I'm going to do it." He goes, "Yeah, but that's not how they do it." He goes, "Well, it's how I'm going to do it." And so he goes on to say, he goes, "I hate people that think they know everything, And then he goes on to say, he says, "Always remember this." He goes, "Do what you feel, because what you feel comes from your heart. And if anybody else ever tells you any different, you tell them to go F themselves, and you tell them, I told you so." And I was like, I'm sitting there like, it was like words from God coming down.
Right. So
But
what does it mean
awesome.
when you say double some kicks? What does that
kicks.
mean?
That means they were going to dress me up with long hair and the same getup as Stallone, right? As Rambo, and then I would be throwing kicks, and they would, they won't catch me face on, but they'd catch me from the back and everything, because my physique was still built. I had a good physique, enough to match his physique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'd be doing some crazy kicks and stuff, and basically double Stallone.
Let me ask you this, Harry. When you're hanging out with Stallone, did he give you a piece of advice that you still cling on today about? That's one thing that's helped your person spiritually, emotionally, and actually career-wise.
That what he told me, do what you feel, because what you feel comes from your heart. And if anybody ever tells you any different, you tell them to go, and you tell them I told you so. That I used throughout my career.
Nice.
Looking at the at your IMDb again, I notice on here that it is under producer.
Mm-hmm.
It has Animal Crackers. Is that the Animal Crackers that everybody is raving about on Netflix?
Absolutely.
How do you get involved? How did you get involved in that?
Here's another wonderful story. Back in the early '90s, I used to produce at Atari Games, and and one of my buddies who was doing a game that I was actually in his game that he was producing was Scott Sava, who I met at Atari, and so we became great friends, and I helped him on his game, and I became one of the characters in his game, and I was producing a game, and he ended up leaving Atari and moved to Los Angeles to start getting into animation, and so we stayed friends, and as he went to Hollywood, because I already had experience there, I was helping to mentor him in that sense to learn more about filmmaking and how Hollywood works, so on and so forth. And we we stayed friends all these years, right? So one year, there was a year when I was producing for No Limit Films. I was producing and directing for Master P, his music videos, right? And so Master P loved the work that we did for him, and then he wanted to do a Master P doll. So I ended up setting that up and having Master P dolls made out of China sent to the U.S. And they said, "Hey, I need a commercial for this." So I thought, well, how cool would it be to do an animated commercial, right, with the Master P doll? And so first person I called was Scott Sava. And I said, Scott, I said, man, I need to make a animated commercial, for this Master P doll, 30 seconds. And I'm very specific with the budget what I had to do it with. And he says, well, Harry, in Hollywood standards today, back then, right, in the later '90s, Scott says, animation costs $10,000 a second. And I'm like, oh shoot, I don't have that $10,000 a second. That's 300 grand. I don't have 300 grand in my budget to do this commercial. What I have is I had like about, what was it, about 25 grand that I could pay him. And Scott was like, he says, I can make that happen. I said, really? He says, yeah, because what I've been doing these past several years is online, and this is in the '90s, mind you. I've been approached by people around the globe from third world countries asking me to teach them how to do animation, how to model, how to shade, how to animate. And so Scott, literally out of the kindness of his heart, he was teaching these people how to do all this stuff. And they ended up becoming actually really good. And he says, I can make this happen because I could have this guy in this third world country who I taught how to model, who became really good. I just pay him a couple $100 and he's happy because a couple $100 to him is like, a couple grand or more, and from a third world country, right? Maybe even more than that. So what Scott did was he started having all these guys build these elements for me, and then he would take it and he would do the finishing touches and animate them and everything. So we actually was able to do this 30-second commercial, and I think the total budget on it might have been like about 40, 50 grand somewhere. But anyhow, what something that was really cool that happened, and I'm glad I was able to make it happen for Scott, was that during that time, he had gotten laid off from another project, and we're talking, here we are, we're right up against Christmas, right? And they unfortunately, he was having a really rough time during that time, and he couldn't, I mean, they were so tight on money, they weren't even able to buy their kids presents, and so I told my partner, I said, listen, I know Scott, he says he could get this done, he's going to get it done. I'd like to just pay him everything up front, everything. And my business partner told me, he says, dude, he goes, hey, I trust you. If you trust him, it's up to you. Do it. So I was able to hand Scott a check right before Christmas for 25 grand. And that just made everything happen for him. And that's why we've been friends all these years. We stayed friends all these years. But as we move forward, right? As we move forward, I was doing a project. I partnered with Jeff Clanagan, who was the founder of Code Black Entertainment. And I've known Jeff for decades, and he partnered with Lionsgate. And when he partnered with Lionsgate, he said, man, I remember that script you wrote called Hoop Fighter. And it was a sci-fi futuristic show, which I combined full contact martial arts with basketball and literally made it work. Okay. And that was the game I was producing at Atari, which I never got to finish because all kinds of stuff happened. The whole regime changed. Time Warner was there. A lot of things changed. So I ended up going, but I took my concept with me. And so I told Jeff, yeah, I'd love to partner with you. He goes, well, let's do something to build on this, so that way we have something to pitch. So I said, okay, well, we could do 6 animated shorts, a 100-page comic book, a novel, and an iPhone and iPad game app. And he says, oh yeah, that's what we would need. And I said, what kind of budget can you give me? He says, well, he goes, the best I could probably do about 110 grand. But in my mind, I'm thinking, God, this is going to be another $300,000 project, to do all that. And so I called Scott up, right? I knew Scott could make something happen. Mm-hmm. So I said, Scott, hey, listen, I got 110 grand. Can we do this? And he says, yeah, I'll make it work. I can make anything work. You're my man. So when we did the 6 animated shorts, the animation came out so well that Scott said, you know what, I think I want to take one of my children's books, because prior to him having twins, right, he started writing children's book, and he wrote like nearly 20 of them and he did it basically for his children when they were old enough to read. So he says, you know what, I'd like to take one of my children's books and turn it into an animated feature. And I told Scott, I said, hey, Scott, if you do that, let me know. I'll help you raise the money. And so that's exactly what I did. I helped him raise the money and ended up becoming one of the producers on the show. So that's how, and if it wasn't for me, that movie would have never got done.
And how does that translate into Emily Blunt and John Krasinski?
You're going to like this one. Well, our partner, one of our co-producers as well, Jamie Thomason, he's voice director and one of the top voice directors. And he did casting for Disney for 15 years. And he's a good friend of Scott's. So Scott brought him on. He goes, hey, I want you to work with us on this film, And I know Jamie through Scott. And so Jamie, what he did was, when you approach the agencies, the top 3 agencies, William Morris, right, ICM, all these big agencies, right? Well, you normally approach them with big projects, and you got money behind it and everything. But here we are, right? We didn't have anything yet. We didn't even have the funding yet locked in yet. So we're thinking, but if we were able to get some names behind us, it'll even make it that much easier for us to get the funding. So what happened was Jamie, because he's been doing casting for 15 years for Disney, what happens when he calls the major three? Hey, Jamie, how are you doing? Hey, what you got for us? Right? Right? Not like, how much money is behind it? What studio's behind the show? How much? What's the budget? Yada yada yada. Because if he would have told him, well, there's no studio behind it, there's no budget right now. I mean, he'd be like, well, come call us when you get this all together.
And that goes, I guess that goes back to Stallone's story from Rocky One. That's not how you do it.
Exactly.
Well, don't tell me this is how I do it. So
exactly. So Jamie goes and gets the agency excited about this script, right? It's an animated feature, right? So they read it, and they ended up sending us from 3 agencies list of all these A-listers, and we're like beside ourselves, right? We're like, are you serious? So we ended up we start getting interest from all these different actors: John Krasinski, Danny DeVito, Stallone, Gilbert Gottfried, Harvey Firestein, Sir Ian McKellen, because they're all on this list. So we're picking them. And so in parallel, as this is happening, I'm actually raising the money. We're getting the commitments and everything. So now we're like looking really good. So what happens is now we've raised the money, where we've got the cast. We weren't using Emily Blunt at first. We were using Kaylee Coco from The Big Bang Theory, right? Mm-hmm. She committed, or her agent committed. So we're bringing the actors in to do their parts for the film, right? So John had come in a few times already, and so and Kaylee was supposed to come in, but she never showed up. And then we had her scheduled again. She never showed up. Then we had her scheduled again. She never showed up. And every time she doesn't show up, it costs us money, because we're renting the facility, right? And we got to get her recorded. So after that third time, John's in there, and he says, hey, when's Kaylee coming in? And, yeah, when's she coming in? And we're like, you know what, John, it looks like she may not be coming in, because we're having some issues right now. And then we'd asked John. He said, well, John, because John had told us that his wife he watched the trailer that we used to help raise the money. She loved it. So we asked John, we said, well, John, you think Emily would be interested in playing your wife in this film? And he goes, oh my God, she would love to. She loves it. And he texted her right there. And I swear, within a matter of a few minutes, she texted back and said, I would love to do it. And that's how we got Emily Blunt.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
she was huge.
Killer.
Yeah. So like I said, I mean, that just goes back to, sometimes doing it a little differently, it all works out in the end. And there's always a plan. And there's always somebody has a bigger plan and knows what's gonna end up happening.
Absolutely. And the Animal Crackers has been the #1 animated feature of the year, and I think we're still #1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been viewed God knows how many times, and I know Scott had made all these GIFs and everything, and for people to download, and that was downloaded over 101 million times.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're right now I'm working on doing some fundraising to get the sequel going. We have a sequel. Yes, we have a sequel going. Incredible story, great concept behind it. And if we could, raise enough of the funds, we could bring in the same cast, and it'll be absolutely incredible. And this time around, it'll be even that much better, because the first time around we had Nabisco supporting us, but Netflix didn't want nothing to do with them. We're like, are you kidding me? They're willing to put up millions of dollars in advertising.
That's crazy. I mean, you'd think Nabisco would be the one product that would, be there for animal crackers altogether,
You know, they loved what we were doing, and we actually helped Nabisco's animal crackers a couple years back. If you remember, they had changed their design of their box,
Right.
Yeah.
and if you remember that was because of us. And the reason why it was because of us is because we were trying to get PETA to support what we were doing, and they didn't. They said, well, we wouldn't support that because, the animal crackers, because they have their animals in a cage.
Mhm.
And we're like, well, what if we're able to get them to change their marketing and redesign it to where they're out of the cage? If you do that, we would be with you guys
Mhm.
100%.
That was
Support that
you.
100%. That's why they changed it.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
But what happened was that because they didn't want Nabisco, they didn't care if Nabisco was involved. We're like, oh my God, this is not good, because they could have added literally millions in advertising for us. So now with the sequel, we've been in contact with Nabisco. Nabisco said, hey, we will get behind this, this time around, and we'll do everything differently.
now what else? What else do you have on your ledger as stuff that's in the works?
In the works right now, other than working on getting the sequel together, getting the funding for the sequel. I'm involved with some new technologies where I got involved with in the business of manufacturing masks, and during a time where we really, really needed, because I know the outbreak has just jumped on us again.
Mhm.
But what we're doing with our mask, and I have one right here to show you, we have a very, very unique mask. I'm going to put it on for you. And what makes this mask unique is that we have a coating, a special coating that we're using on this, that's patented coating, that will kill the 91% of the virus on contact, and the rest of the virus, if there's any left, will be killed minutes later. Not only that, this mask also blocks out the virus by 99%. So this is like an N99 mask,
Mhm.
along with um, uh, um, a very special coating that will eliminate the virus as well.
Well, I noticed the shape of it also is
Mhm.
a little different
Yeah.
to a normal, one of those paper masks that you would buy in a
Mhm.
10-pack at Walmart.
Yes. Yes. This is what they call a butterfly style mask. There's the 3M. You notice is a round cup, and this is more of a butterfly style because it folds literally flat like this, and then it opens up. Whereas the 3M cup stays that form. So
Brother,
and
you're doing
also
God's work, man.
with this particular mask, if I have this on and I have the virus on my hands and I do this, it'll kill the virus on my hands as well.
Wow.
Extraordinary. And when's that going into production?
We're right now we've done a bunch of testing. It's been third party tested at the labs, and that's why we know that it does kill the 90. It's 91. I'd say 90%, but it's 91% instantly on contact. So it's been tested. We're doing a few more tests that's happening next week, and then we're right into production. And so I will probably be right at the end of the month, right at the beginning of the next month, we're going into production.
Oh, that's excellent. Excellent work.
Yes.
That's
Thank
really
you.
good news for people out there. And is there a market that you're angling that towards? Just anybody? Like will you be sending like
Doctors?
trial, like to the the homes and stuff and
hospitals and businesses,
hospitals.
government. You know, we're working on getting the NIOSH approvals right now. As far as the flat masks are concerned, you don't need a NIOSH approval. But if we want to get into the hospitals, we have to get the 510K approval, which will allow us to get into the hospitals as well. Right now, it'll be directly available for consumers.
Mhm.
You know, and then I know we have brokers right now that are biting at the bit. They have huge quantities standing by to purchase right now, and as soon as we get it going, we'll get it all figured out exactly where we're going to, and as soon as we get our NIOSH approvals, then we could get it also get those into the hospitals.
Mhm.
So we're working really hard right now to make this all happen.
Yeah, and I think that could also possibly save the movie industry. Tying it all back together. If people, start, you just wear that to go to the movies again. Because I've read there's 2 or 3 more movie chains that are just like, okay, we're just going to give it up for the rest of the year and come back
Yeah.
in 21 and see if it's any better.
It's a shame. It's a shame what has happened. But it's a lot of people are saying it's the new norm. And a lot of people aren't happy with that. But life is important. We all need to be safe. We need to do everything to protect ourselves. And what we're doing right now is we're trying to take it multiple steps ahead of everybody with that's supplying normal masks by supplying a mask that will also eliminate the virus.
Right. Well,
Harry, go ahead, John.
No. I was just going to say my hat is off to you, sir, for for being out there and being.
Thank you.
Doing what you're doing, because we need some help.
Absolutely, we surely do. We surely do, and it's on its way. Trust me, it's on its way.
And what I want to say, sir, is that you are not only changing the world from your aspect of creating something to save others' lives, but you're changing the whole game on this. I mean, we've had masks, we've been washing them, we've been doing that, everything we can. And here you, sir, are taking the steps to create an existence of a mask that will not only save lives, will help doctors. And as we get this, vaccine going, you are just changing up the game. And I, sir, thank you kindly for everything you're doing and saving a life, especially because it might save my life as well. Thank you, sir. You're awesome.
Yeah, as soon as I get these samples in, I'll send you off some.
Well, we appreciate your time today, and everything that you spoke to us about. I mean, and I guess it all goes back to that
Sly moment.
That sly moment where these if it's in your heart, you do it, and if it's in your heart, it is the right thing to do.
Well, I gotta say, do I have a couple minutes?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So, and it goes back to what Sly had said to me, right? It goes back to that. After Rambo, a couple years after Rambo, I think it was a couple of years after Rambo, I was called to audition for Karate Kid 2. So I was living in Northern California. I drive to Warner Brothers, right, and go onto the lot, and I go into Jerry Weintraub's office, and a big time producer, right, Ocean's 11 and tons of films. So I go into his office, and the secretary is auditioning me, and here right next to me is Dustin Nguyen, who was the original Asian guy on the 21 Jump Street, right? So I'm like thinking to myself, oh shit, that's Dustin Nguyen. I'm not going to get this part, But actually, I auditioned opposite against amongst them, and I did get the part.
Mm-hmm.
So the secretary said, "Here, come on in. Let me introduce you to Jerry, and be packed and ready to go to Hawaii tomorrow." And I'm like, "Oh yeah!" I didn't even bring clothing with me, and she says, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just get what you need when you're in Hawaii." So I go in, I meet Jerry, welcome aboard, and look forward to working with you, and yada yada yada. And so I'm walking out of his office, right, and I'm on cloud 9, right. So As I'm walking out, I see two people coming towards me, and lo and behold, one was the martial arts choreographer, Pat Johnson, and another fellow stunt guy who I know. I didn't want to use his name because it's not a good situation. And he says to me, he sees me, he goes, "Hey," he goes, "what are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I just auditioned for Karate Kid 2 and I got the role." And he looks at me, he goes, "Oh, okay. No congratulations, nothing, right?" I leave. I go call home, call my family. "Hey, I won't be coming home. I'm going to Hawaii. I'm on Karate Kid 2, yada, yada, yada." And then within less than 2 hours later, I get a call saying, "Hi, this is from production. We're sorry to have to inform you that the director had found somebody else in Hawaii. We didn't know about it, and so we're gonna have to cancel you out." And I'm like, "Ah, man, my heart just sunk down to the pit of my gut, you know." And I'm like thinking, "Wait, what? This is not. This is weird. This is strange." And then I thought about the guy who I saw who said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" You know, and I know the guy, you know, and I mean, I could actually call him a friend of mine, right? But I thought, well, you know what? Because he was there in Acapulco when that whole thing went down with Stallone, right? Because I didn't finish that story. Because what happened was when Sly hired me, it caused some conflict amongst some of the stunt guys because I wasn't hired by a stunt coordinator. I wasn't hired by the producer. Stallone hired me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some people that were like not happy about that, you know?
Right.
So I think what the guy did was he went in and he says, "Hey, you don't want to hire that guy. He causes trouble. You know, he caused a bunch of trouble on Rambo 2 or blah, blah." I don't know what he said, but I'm thinking to myself, that's what happened, right? So I'm like hurt, right? And then I get upset. Then I get depressed. Then I'm like, and then I get pissed because I'm thinking I know this guy did that. So I'm pissed, right? And then I say to myself, what can I do to never, ever, ever, ever allow this to happen again? What can I do? Because I got really upset. I was depressed and hurt and mad. And so I thought, you know what? I said to myself, I said, you know what? I got to be the boss. So that's when James Hong and I produced our first movie called The Vineyard, which became a cult horror classic all over the world.
Yeah. So, and you can't fire the boss.
Yeah, you can't fire the boss, you know. So as the years went on, right, I got confirmation from a buddy of mine because I ended up meeting that secretary again, like decades later, and confirmed that did get dogged on that show.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, after all those years and decades had gone by, I'd become an award-winning producer, award-winning writer, award-winning director, and I thought to myself, you know what? I can't be mad at the guy because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have changed my attitude about how I was going to proceed in my career.
That was the spark that lit the candle.
Exactly. So I haven't seen the guy. Last time I did see him, which was decades ago, hug, "Hey, how are you?" And he was bragging about how he had just got in with the DGA, and it was just like we never skipped a beat, like being friends, right? Have known one another. But then, now next time, if and when I do bump into him, I'm going to give him a big hug and I'm going to thank him and I'm going to remind him about what happened. I'm going to tell him that I know that he did dog me, but I'm going to thank him for that.
Right.
Because man. He's changed he helped change the course of my life, my career.
Right.
Had I got that part, maybe I would have just been acting. But now I'm doing it all,
Yep. Now do you ever come in contact with Sly? Any contact with him?
Well, yeah, when he came in, I surprised him. I saw him one year, and I knew we were going into production 6 months in advance, right? And I saw him, and I said, "Hey, how are you?" Big hug and all that, and I go, "Hey, I got a big surprise for you, man." And he goes, "You do?" And I said, "Yeah, but I can't tell you about it now, but you're going to hear about it." and I'll let you know about it. He goes, okay, you do that. So 6 months go by. He's in the recording studio recording, right? And I hadn't seen him yet. I got in right when he was finishing up, right? So right when he finished up, I walked through the recording studio, just me, myself, and I walked right into where he's at because he's in the recording room by himself. And he sees me and he goes, hey, he goes, what are you doing here? And I said, surprise. I said, remember I told you I had a surprise for you? I said, I'm one of the producers on this film. He goes, really? So it was a really nice reunion, and we sat down, we spent some time together, had a great conversation, and his makeup artist was doing some makeup for him because he was getting ready to do some filming for us. What do you call those when the actor sits and talks about the movie,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking to him, and I reminded him of what he told me about, hey, do what you feel because what you feel comes from your heart, and if anyone tells you any different, you tell them to go like that, to go F themselves. So I reminded him about that. He goes, and he's laughing. He goes, really? He goes, is that what I told you? And I said, yeah, that's what you told me. He's laughing. He goes, oh, wow.
I said, boy, was I wrong.
Right? So anyhow, I just wanted to share that last story with you because, it just goes to show that if you really, whatever you feel comes from your heart.
Right.
Go after your dreams. You don't ever let up. If you get shot down, you find another way. You'll find another way. Just don't ever accept no for now.
Exactly. Zig instead of zagging. When you need to zig, you gotta zag.
Yep. So, well, thank you, Harry, for spending a couple of minutes with us. We appreciate everything that you are doing, with the masks and the virus, and we look forward to, maybe when Animal Crackers Part 2 comes out, we'll catch up again. Well, we seem to have lost sound.
I can't hear him.
No sound. All right. Well, we'll give Harry a
He
way.
entered the Animal Cracker vortex.
Yeah. So we'll do it. We'll do it like, what was that game show they used to do?
Oh yeah.
Was that was that the dating game?
The dating game. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Harry, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we hope to get to talk to you real soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Oh boy, Jeff, that was an interesting one.
Extraordinary.
What do you say?
Once again, another killer episode. This dude is an extraordinary individual, and he's doing some life-changing things that's going to help everybody in the world.
Well, we want to thank you for joining the Geek and I podcast. This week, we are sponsored by Sumner Twins Talent. Visit them online at facebook.com/Sumner Twins. We are part of the Geek News Now podcast network. For all your geeking news, visit geeknewsnow.net. You can read all about what's going on in Hollywood, TV, movies, comics, all right there at geeknewsnow.net. And don't forget, everything you need for your gaming experience is available for you at metallicdicegames.com. Use code GNN at checkout and save 10%. Thank you, Jeff. We will see you
on the next one.
We'll see you on the show next time. Later.
Next one. Next time.